Sunrise, we're coming to you live from a hotel venue of the Nigeria Governors Forum retreat. We're joined now by His Excellency Babatunde Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and Governor of Lagos State. Thank you for coming on this one, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen.
Well, interestingly, this retreat, we've spoken previously with Governor Mechi, and we're looking at the peer review mechanism, the impact of Governors Forum. Give us your perspective on Governors Forum, the essence of that forum.
I think the substance of it, you have already addressed the peer review mechanism, and what really is peer review is note sharing, ideas sharing, inspiration, healthy competition building, healthy rivalry, and underlying all of that is the reason why the retreat itself was designed as a mobile retreat. It moves from state to state depending on the convenience of the governor at the time to host. My colleague in Sokoto hosted us the last time. I think we had the very first one in Abuja many years ago, and then it tapered off, and we decided that in the interest of national development, let's resuscitate it because it offered so many windows of hope when we had the very first one. And so, I mean, it's come to Lagos now. Part of it also was not just sitting there and sharing notes. As we visit states, the probability that you will see something you are thinking of doing or something you are doing and somebody's probably doing better and so on. So that really is the essence of it.
Okay, but you know, there are those who will wonder, does that sharing of notes still happen at an increased pace? Because now that the forum is fractured, and if the pressure group, can that note sharing still be done?
Well, it can be done, and you can always argue even the factionalization of the forum, as it were, is unfortunate. And one of the things that I have pondered about is that as we reach the end of our term, what kind of forum are we going to hand over to the next set of governors? And when you consider the very large number of governors that are standing down in 2015. So, but I'm sure we'll find our way. But nevertheless, be assured that even those who, as it were, are aggrieved at this moment, we talk because we have also personal relationships with one another. I think yesterday I got a note from Governor Jang that it was his 70th birthday, and perhaps a good time to wish him a very happy birthday and many happy returns. So we're still in contact with one another, even if we disagree on fundamental principles. It hasn't in any way affected personal relationships, at least not as far as I am concerned.
Your Excellency, that issue of peer review, now, some states have seemed to look as though they've gone forward faster than others. Now, as a pressure group, do you put pressure on yourselves? Because since we started this conversation, we've had so many tweets coming in, complaints here and there. Do you put pressure on yourselves in terms of fighting corruptions within the states themselves? Development, infrastructure?
My response is that the states are different in so many respects. They're different in terms of land size. They're different in terms of population size. They're different in terms of economic structure. What are the major activities? They're different in terms of developmental levels. But one thing that is common to all of them is improving the quality of people's life, because at the end of the day, it's all about people. Now, you know, the thing about this also is that each governor is independent, elected by his people. And so when there are problems, of course, you can't put a governor, your colleague, equal by standing on the public stage and say, why haven't you done this in your state? You can't do that. It's like in a social club also. There's certain things, but there are ways where you speak to each other. You may send committees or groups to say, look, listen, what's the problem here? Can we help?
Does that ever happen?
Oh, it's happened across many subjects.
maybe moving this state forward in this area? If a state comes out and say, okay, for instance, Lagos State, you're tackling the issue of accommodation, housing right now. Now, do you help your colleagues in tackling such issues, maybe in the area of planning, not necessarily funding?
Yeah. You see, first of all, over the years, we've become resource teams for one another. So oftentimes, when we initiate any policy here that we think has national potential, what we do first is document. Like the Lagos Homes Initiative, for example, has a whole end-to-end documentation. As I said, we had about 27, 29 meetings over 3 years. And I know what our experiences were. And I know that housing is a national issue. I know why we started that initiative, because there was no mortgage of the type that people really could afford in terms of tenure and pricing. So all of this is documented, and it often ends up in our Public Development Staff Center, which is the place where we do training for our own staff and for staff of other states who come to find out what we're doing, so that training or sharing knowledge also doesn't slow down governance. So all our resource materials go to that center. And therefore, and some of my colleagues, in the same way that when I go to their states and I see what I like and I ask, how are you doing this? Who's in charge? They do the same thing, and we exchange personnel also. Some people come in for in situ understudy and see how we're working, what we're doing. Some write letters to say, look, listen, can you send us this, your law? We want to have a look at it. We think it's something we can use. So a lot is going on. But, I mean, these things are moving. Governance is moving at a frenetic pace. And perhaps we should take some blame for not putting some of those things in the public space. I sent a team from my state to Rivers to go and understudy the primary and secondary school system, because when I went there, I saw what I liked. But also, we took bits and pieces of it whilst we were running with us. There were some things we thought that we had left behind that Rivers had focused on, and we took bits and pieces of it. But given their population and our own population, certainly we couldn't also, and our income disparities, we couldn't do some of the things that they were doing. And also, they were building relatively from scratch. We were building in an already densely populated environment.
You know, when you talk about population, what comes to mind for those who reside in Lagos is the stomach, agriculture. How well have we been able to harness all of that potential? If you look at Lagos, for instance, there are a whole lot you can actually feel in terms of what happens, what goes on a daily basis in the city. But perhaps maybe we should look at Lagos, once aquatic splendor of the nation, and away from the aquatic life. Some would have thought that, well, there will be a mesh in proper agriculture. Is there anything you're doing in that regard in your state?
Yes, but perhaps before I deal with that, it's important to also contextualize capacity and competitive advantage. Our land mass is the smallest in the whole of the country, but it's the most densely populated. So we are a quarter of the size of Ogun, for example. Ogun is about 16,000 square kilometers. We are almost 4,000 square kilometers. So if you want to do agriculture, for example, in terms of cropping and all of that, it has to be on some very extensive and mechanized scale in order to build sufficiency for yourself. And but that has not limited our venture into some type of relative sufficiency, and we're targeting 30% self-sufficiency in case there was a crisis.
30%?
Yes. And that if anything, and also...
Sorry,
yes.
is livestock inclusive?
Yes, livestock inclusive, because again, livestock there's a limit to what you can produce, even with all of the mechanizations, the medicines, the cages and all of that, because after a while you fill out over land area. That's one. The other thing is that our land is much more valuable for its real estate value rather than for its cropping and agricultural benefits. But that notwithstanding, I mean, we've gained quite some distance in terms of egg production, in terms of cassava farming and milling. We are able to supply local producers now, and we are able to use that to support employment for young people, young graduates, training them at our farm in Araga and Ekpe. We have moved, for example, from about 20 hectares of rice cultivation per year to 1,000 hectares of rice cultivation per year. We have our own mill. We're doing a lot of fish farming, fish sites, and we are opening up. And this is also to position the intent to encourage small and medium scale farming. And so we are creating small farm sites, 5 hectares, 4 hectares, in order to empower people to benefit from the agricultural value chain. Now, there's a lot of processing also going on. There's a lot of canning and bagging and packaging going on. But we have acquired land outside Lagos.
I was going to ask that.
Yes, we have land now in Egua, in Ogun State. We have land, a farmland that we bought from an individual several years in Osun. Some of my colleagues are processing applications for us for land in Ekiti and in Osun. Ogun, as I said, has given us, so we are farming from there and bringing in the paddy rice to our mill in Imota. And we also have a farmland now, about 50 hectares in Abuja, which we have started processing for farming. And I've spoken to some of my colleagues. I've written to some of them also in the north to give us land for farming, because in that way also we can help support local economies where we are planting, because the local people there that will do the farming, but our people can benefit from the transport opportunity, haulage down. So that's part of the value chain in agriculture. Now, the flip side of that is that some states have this land, and therefore it would be sensible for us, if all we can do is 30%, we must also leverage on their capacity to be our suppliers. What is interesting about that, it takes attention away from a one-resource economy, because for some states can actually feed the whole country because of the land mass that they have. And that would be, quote and unquote, their own natural resource.